We believe in building the car industry for the future. Mr Abbott believes in cutting the Australian car industry of the future and destroying the jobs which it supports. Are 50,000 jobs for the car workers of Australia important? Are 250,000 car jobs right across the nation in the allied and support industries important? How about the 7,500 car industry jobs in New South Wales? Are they important? We believe all these jobs are important because they're the jobs of decent, hard-working Australians. And their lives, their dignity, their pay packet, their fair wages, their fair conditions, they matter to me as your Prime Minister. They don't matter to him who just wants to be the Prime Minister. Today we've been at Westmead and we've been talking about health and hospital services. We've been talking also about our proud tradition of Medicare, our proud tradition more recently of Dedicare, our new tradition of disability care. Labor built Medicare. Labor is building Dedicare. Labor will build disability care. Mr Abbott's solution is to cut. So there is no one to care at all. You know something, friends? This is so basic. So many of our nurses here will know people who now work in our wonderful national network of Medicare locals. 61 of them across the nation, employing 3,000 healthcare workers, frontline workers, right across Australia, including in Greater Western Sydney. Who are these folks? They're nurses, they're GPs, they're podiatrists, they are physiotherapists, they're occupational therapists, they're mental health workers, they're psychologists, they're dietitians. They're the people who make it possible for folks who don't have all the cash in their back pocket to go and get decent treatment. It's a great Labor reform, building Medicare local. What's Mr Abbott said? Mr Abbott has said he's going to cut Medicare local and destroy it. Let me tell you what that means, that one decision of itself means. Across Australia today, we have 3,000 frontline healthcare workers whose jobs Mr Abbott will destroy in 3 weeks' time if he is elected as Prime Minister of Australia. No ifs, no buts, no maybes. He said he's going to destroy each and every one of their jobs. I don't believe that is right. Do you believe it's right? No!
Can you hear me?
Yes!
Suddenly my voice is low.
Those 3,000 jobs of our frontline health workers, they mean a lot to me. They mean a lot to Albo. They mean a lot to Bob Carr. They mean a lot to John Murphy. They mean a lot to my wife Therese, who's here with us as well. Give Therese a cheer. Beautiful Therese, I agree with you. Love of my life, supporter of me in good times and bad. But can I just say this to you? Therese's mum is a physiotherapist. My mum was a nurse. It's those sort of people across Australia who work in our frontline health services without fanfare, without headlines, without someone sort of swinging from the mountaintop talking about what they do. They just do their job every day. They help people. They help people who have a problem in the middle of the night. They help people who need some help at an unusual time on the weekend. So for those 3,000 frontline healthcare workers, I care about their jobs. I care about their jobs. Let me tell you what his decision, Mr Abbott's decision to cut Medicare local, will mean for this community in New South Wales. Mr Abbott will cut 1,000 frontline healthcare workers here in New South Wales alone. He doesn't care for their jobs. I do care for their jobs. In Victoria, he's about to cut 770 frontline healthcare workers. He doesn't care about their jobs. I care about their jobs. In my state of Queensland, he's about to cut 710 frontline health workers. He doesn't care about those jobs. I care about those jobs. If it's Western Australia, where you're looking at 410 frontline health workers, whether it's South Australia, 240, whether it's in Tassie, 90, in the Territories, 85, all those 3,000 frontline healthcare workers' jobs. He doesn't care for their jobs. I care for their jobs. So friends, these are big decisions we face. And you who support our great cause, you who come from the great unions of the Australian education movement, the health movement, those who come more broadly from across our community and industrial sectors, public servants, because you support Labor in your local communities, I say this. When we get to September the 7th, it's going to be a clear-cut choice. They believe that they have this election in the bag. We have news for them. They do not. Mr. Abbott has already said he has worked on his victory speech. I say, Mr. Abbott, that is the most arrogant thing I have heard. Mr. Abbott at Central Campaign Headquarters for the Liberal Party has posters up across the wall of himself, Tony Abbott, 28th Prime Minister of Australia. I say that is arrogant. Do you think that's arrogant? And then they say, well, we need to do better in the polls. Well, let me tell you one thing. I, Kevin Rudd, have been told by every newspaper outlet in the country, every polling organisation in the country, time after time, in years past, that, Kevin, you're finished. And guess what? I've proved them wrong every time. I'm determined to prove them wrong again. I'm determined to lead this great Australian Labor team to an Australian Labor victory on September the 7th. And the reason for that, my friends, is this. Our values are good values. Yes. Each and every one of you are here is because you believe in a fair go. Whether you came to Australia 100 years ago and you came 10 years ago, whether you came from Europe and whether you came from India, whether you come from Ireland and whether you come from China, doesn't matter where you come from. We are one Australian family. We believe in a fair go for all. There's one thing, I was down in Adelaide yesterday, I watched the AFL. I was watching Port play a Queensland team. But I'll just say this about where we're up to in this election campaign, given our friends at the media seem to be saying it's all too difficult. We're not even in the middle of the second quarter yet, if you're playing AFL. And we're certainly not even up to half-time yet, if you're in the NRL. There's a long way to go, so when Mr. Abbott goes out there and says he's got this in the bag and he's already the Prime Minister of Australia, I think the Australian people may scratch their head and think about that and say, Mr. Abbott, that's just a little too arrogant. September the 7th is 3 weeks away. We have campaigning to do each and every day. Campaigning around one core proposition to the Australian people. We build the nation's future. He cuts and cuts the nation's future. And with your support in each campaign here in Greater Western Sydney and across New South Wales, this government is determined to prevail. I am determined to prevail, and we're determined to prove each and every one of those critics fundamentally wrong. Let us re-elect this Australian Labor government. Ladies and gentlemen, you have... You know, I thought when I got to be Deputy Prime Minister I might get something other than elbow. But isn't it a great country when that's the case? Kevin and elbow, they could only be Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister in this great country. I want to read you a little something from Parliament. I was at Steve Georgiannis's campaign launch in Hindmarsh last week, and I was there in Adelaide, and a branch member came up to me and he reminded me of this